Run.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of On the Run. And it's in fact the last episode from Macau for a very long time, for about 10 weeks. Yes, I'm heading off on Sunday to Hong Kong and then a whole bunch of other places over the next 10 weeks. So I will tell you more about that at the end of the video. So let's start off with Macau. Now, what have we got here on the rundown over here? Macau, well, there's been a lot happening in Macau, hasn't there? So China travel agencies announced that tours to 20 countries, outbound tours from mainland China, will begin on the 6th of February. We've had Chinese New Year. The visitor arrivals in Macau have soared, absolutely soared, back to the old days almost. We had 30,000, then 50,000, then 70,000, then 90,000 on days 1, 2, 3, and 4. Maybe I've got that slightly wrong, but we had about 244,000 in 4 days. So I know 90,000 was the biggest day. So Macau has been packed. The casinos have been packed. The integrated resorts have been packed. It's been hard to get a room, 100% occupancy everywhere, high room rates. Hard to get a restaurant booking or a restaurant meal. It's great. It's fantastic. So it's great to see Macau back in that way. And, Sands China had the earnings call, and Rob Goldstein, it was the earnings call for the fourth quarter of 2022, but he mentioned that things were going great and that he was very bullish. And that even though the visitor numbers aren't necessarily, even though they're records, they're not that great compared to pre-pandemic, because the average daily visitation in Macau for the 2019 year was 108,000 people, and our biggest day so far has been 90,000 people. But the people that are coming back are higher quality, better players. So the first people back are the people who really want to gamble. So the average spend per person has been much higher. So I think revenue has been a much higher proportion of 2019 than visitation has. Are we all the way back to 2019 on revenue? Not quite, I would imagine, but maybe very close to it. Certainly on the mass side anyway, putting aside the junkets. We had the unusual sight of the Macau Chief Executive visiting all 6 integrated resorts and in the last day or so, yesterday I think it was, and pushing non-gaming, of course, that's his big thing. And he toured all 6 Cotai IRs, which is really, really, well, actually he went to Grand Lisboa, didn't he? But look, really, really interesting to see that. Now, let's have a little bit of analysis on this, a little bit of commentary on this. I have previously been bearish on Macau for 3 main reasons. And the 3 reasons are: 1, COVID zero; 2, the very strict capital controls by the mainland Chinese government on bringing money out of China, including into Macau; and 3, the general sort of negative attitude towards our industry by the governments of both Macau and mainland China. But let's go through those. Number 1, COVID zero. Well, that's gone. That's dead and buried, and it ain't coming back. Number 2, capital controls and liquidity. Well, surprisingly, from what I've been hearing, there's a lot of money around town at the moment. Liquidity is pretty good. So I'm not quite sure why yet, and I don't think we'll know for sure until March, but maybe there already was money in town that was in hibernation. A lot of it's from Hong Kong. There's a lot more Hong Kong play. About the same percentage of visitation from Hong Kong, but I think a higher proportion of play. As I mentioned on the run, I think it was last week or the week before, I expect it to be a Hong Kong-led recovery to a certain extent. And a lot of people are wiring money in from other places, not China. Maybe they're mainland Chinese people with businesses elsewhere in the world. So liquidity, perhaps, getting the money into Macau isn't going to be as difficult, but maybe it's just a Chinese New Year thing. So I think we need to wait until second half of March, I'm saying, before we get a true picture. Same thing for visitation as well. But the third thing was the government's attitudes. Well, behind the scenes, I'm hearing quietly that the DICJ, the Macau government, various officials are saying things like, right, what do we need to do to get back into business? All of this negativity about the industry, some of it has evaporated, and now, perhaps now that the new concessions are in place from 1st of January, it's a whole new ball game. So if it's a big if all of those three things are solved, well, all of a sudden I'll become bullish on Macau again, because they were the three things I was worried about. So let's see how things play out over the next 6-8 weeks or so. I'll be very, very interested to see. And who knows, maybe Macau will be back long term. Of course, the GGR will be lower without the junkets, but the EBITDA is not going to suffer as much because the junket play was low EBITDA play. And who knows, maybe we can build a mass market and even a premium mass market if the liquidity is there to get back to where we were. So let's see. Let's go over to the Philippines now. A lot of POGO news this week. In news behind the news, obviously there's something going on in the Philippines right now. POGOs are being attacked in the Senate, being attacked in the parliament. There are certain people who don't like the POGO industry and are trying to destroy it. There was a story out about POGO tax auditor was found to be unlicensed. Yeah, I think there's probably a story behind that story. PAGCOR came out and said POGOs are here to stay, they're not going anywhere, and they vowed to nurture the industry. There were accusations about Oriental Group, one of the biggest POGOs, and a couple of other POGOs. They were all cleared of human trafficking. There were some accusations made. So obviously there's a lot of stuff being stirred up about the POGO industry, and there's an anti-POGO element in the Philippines. But it seems to me that POGOs are here to stay. The government wants the revenue, and that's the way it's going to be. What else? Las Vegas Sands announced a narrowed loss, $269 million US, assisted by MBS, Marina Bay Sands in Singapore, new mass record. That $269 million loss compares to last quarter, a $472 million loss, and same quarter last year, a $319 million loss. So things are getting better. And as Macau, obviously Macau's subsidiary of LVS, so as Macau recovers, as Singapore continues to grow, I think we will see that loss eventually go down and turn into a profit. Marina Bay Sands net revenue almost doubled year on year to $682 million for that quarter. So that augurs well for Singapore and the wider Asian gaming industry. The Hong Kong Jockey Club recorded its highest day of betting turnover since 1997, since the last racing meet before the handover. It was. Yes, the new record now is Hong Kong, $2.06 billion. So what's that? It's roughly 2 billion, 1 billion, half a billion, a quarter of a billion. So 250, let's divide by a little bit, maybe 260, 270 US million for a single day turnover is pretty impressive stuff. And it's Chinese New Year, so it makes sense. But it looks like, gambling and gaming turnover in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and in Monaco. Our next story is all up, all around the world. Monaco's SBM, it's the Société de Bain de Mer, or whatever it's called. It means literally, I think, the Sea Bath Society. SBM, of course, 5% owned by Galaxy Entertainment Group since 2015, if my memory serves me correctly. SBM's revenue, that they of course own the famous Le Casino Grande in Monaco, Monte Carlo, if you prefer. The revenue surged 27% in December, and it looks like 2023, the year to 31st of March 2023, they run on a 31st of March financial year, could be a new record. The revenue for the 9 months to 31st of December 2022 has been 557 million euro. Small numbers compared to Asia, but big for Europe. So look, gaming's booming all around the world, and I think even China, COVID zero's gone, and I mean all of those changes so quickly in Hong Kong and mainland China and Macau, and I think it's not going to be very long. A little bit of time to get the pent-up demand through, get the revenge travel, get all that through and get back to normality. I think that may take 6 to 9 months. for Macau to really work its way through the system. But I think we're going to have a pretty good idea of what the new baseline normal level is, as I say, in late March. So I'm pretty excited to see what that number is, and maybe Macau is back. Who knows? Yes, the last on the run from Macau. You won't be seeing this background for many, many weeks, starting next week. I'm off to Hong Kong on Sunday. Well, that's the plan anyway. Plans can always change, but I think I will be off to Hong Kong on Sunday. And then the plan for Q1 run, the Q1 on the run is so 30th of January to 3rd of February in Hong Kong. And you can see there on the rundown, the list, 4th to the 10th of February in London, 10th to the 13th of February in Paris, 15th to the 19th of February, I'll be in Melbourne. Then on the 20th of February, I'll go to Sydney. And then my plan is to go to, without specific dates yet, Hobart, Adelaide, Perth, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Phnom Penh, Sihanoukville, Manila, Cebu, Clark, and then finally back to Macau again. So if you would like to catch up sometime in those dates, or you're from one of those places and you want to do some business, or you want to catch up or share some information, meet in person, I would love to see you in person after, what was it, 937 days locked up in Macau. I'm very, very excited to be out and meeting people in person again. So that's it for On the Run this week. Next week from Hong Kong, and we'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Run.